Hello, welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton.
Hello.
How are you doing, Mary Lou?
I'm good. I'm just trying to not argue with people on social media.
Are you trying? Are you really trying?
I'm trying. No, I am. I'm
you.
so much better than I used to be because it only causes me suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I trained myself out of that back in the Facebook days, and then I don't think I've used Facebook in 5 years or something, so that probably helped. But it was, I remember early on in my days as a, I don't know, an impassioned feminist, I suppose. I spent a lot of time arguing on Facebook, and then I realized how stupid and pointless and embarrassing it was. So
yeah, I don't regret any of it, but I don't want to do it anymore.
It's totally gross. I remember always feeling like I can't even remember the rest. I'd refuse to, like, every once in a while I'll engage a little bit on my public page just to say like a thing, but I'm not going to have an argument with somebody on Facebook. I remember it used to always, like 10 years ago when I was into that, it would just make me feel gross. Yeah. Like you'd spend so much time there and then you'd leave and you'd just feel like yucky and like drained. And the arguments that I have like on X or whatever I'll just respond. Like it's almost more performative than anything else. It's not something that I get invested in or think I can convince anyone of it. And I just feel, and then I feel like other people, I feel like the person that you're arguing with gets more out of it than you do because they feel all proud of themselves that they've gotten to you, and it makes them feel powerful sometimes. And I don't want anybody else to feel more powerful than I feel.
Right. I'm just trying to be positive on my social media now and not get into arguments because it's so pointless and useless. And yeah. I don't regret it though. I really feel like back in the day, so like 10 years ago, 9 years ago, some really important stuff was happening on Facebook with like the early terfs, and that we were piquing people and putting it out a message that wasn't being heard. But now that everybody and their uncle is a terf, like it's just not important anymore.
Oh, I have to hide. I have a broken nail. Oh, it's the perfect one too. I just put it up and I was like, yeah, gross, disgusting. I couldn't get a nail appointment till tomorrow, so sorry everyone. That's how you can tell I have a female brain.
Well, I was gonna say these are problems I don't have because I have a male brain.
Yeah, before we get into anything, I want to remember some things, which are to say that if you're watching on YouTube, please right now subscribe to the channel. Okay. Click a button, subscribe, like. Also, yeah, but I think that's all I needed to remember, really. Whatever else I needed to remember, I've forgotten. Well, yeah, I feel like it's so crazy how quickly everything changed, and it's so underwhelming. Like, it's like, okay, the terfs won. Fuck you. Like, that's how I don't feel happy about it at all. I remember I felt really, really excited about Trump and his executive orders and how turfy they were and how awesome they were, and that things were actually starting to change. And now it's just a barrage of articles about obvious things. Like, you know, Helen Lewis just published something in the Atlantic about gender medicine and trans kids, which, you know, it's a good article, but, you know, she's sort of one of those. I like Helen Lewis. I'm not trying to be insulting to Helen Lewis, but she's one of those middle people. Like, she's like Katie Herzog when they think like they don't want to ban so-called gender medicine for kids because maybe it's good for some kids, and they also want to respect pronouns because that's the nicey nice thing to do. And it's like, no, like there's no reason ever why any healthy child needs to go on puberty blockers and hormones and get plastic surgeries, you know, cosmetic plastic surgeries, experimental cosmetic plastic surgeries. Like, what on earth would be the reason for that, so that they can be a passing so-called trans adult? Like, is that important? Is that important enough ever to sterilize a mutilated child?
Well, that's what Brianna Wu says. He says that if we don't have pediatric trans medicine, we won't get Hunter Schaefers, these eunuch, desexed, completely non-orgasmic men who look like female sex dolls, right? Like that's their whole point, is so they can so-called pass, but they're still not female. And even though they are sexually arousing to men who are attracted to that and look at them, they don't get any pleasure out of sex. They're infertile. They've been castrated. It's so
They
sick.
might get pleasure out of sex if they're having gay sex. Let's be fair. They still have a
Well,
prostate because they're men.
But they don't have an adult prostate. They never had the testosterone to make their prostate mature.
Oh.
Because to get a Hunter Schafer, you have to block puberty before it gets rolling, like at the very first stirrings of it. So they don't have any sexual function. According to Joanna Olson Kennedy, when 100% of them were incapable of orgasm.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that. Well, then.
Yeah, they don't have any, no part of their body is masculinized through puberty. So no, they're just sex dolls for somebody else's pleasure.
Gross.
It's gross. It's criminal. It's insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, so this is what, Helen Lewis's article says, I just want to find it here. The liberal misinformation bubble about youth gender medicine. And then the subhead is how the left ended up disbelieving the science. And yeah, I mean, most of it is a good article. It's nothing that you or I don't know. But, to some who are now, whatever, 10 years too late, coming around to the fact that this is all not just nonsense, BS, pseudoscience, but really harmful, dangerous BS pseudoscience that's ruined the lives and bodies of countless minors and adults. But so she says, acknowledging the evidence does not mean that you also have to support banning these treatments or reject the idea. Like, she's trying to be like, you don't have to be a meanie to acknowledge that this is all BS pseudoscience that harms and destroys the lives of countless minors and adults. Acknowledging the evidence does not mean that you also have to support banning these treatments or reject the idea that some people will be happier if they transition. Cass, so she's referring to the Cass report here, Cass believes that some youngsters may indeed benefit from the medical pathway. And this is a quote from her report, from the Cass report. While some young people may feel an urgency to transition, young adults looking back at their younger selves would often advise slowing down. For some, the best outcome will be transition, whereas others may resolve their distress in other ways. And then she says, Helen Lewis says, I have always argued against straightforward bans on medical transition for adolescents. In practice, the way these have been enacted in red states have been uncaring and punitive. Parents are threatened with child abuse investigations for pursuing treatments that medical professionals have assured them are safe. Children with severe mental health troubles suddenly lose therapeutic support. Clinics nationwide, including Olson Kennedy's, are now abruptly closing because of the political atmosphere. Writing about the subject in 2023, I argued that the only way out of the culture war was for the American medical associations to commission reviews and carefully consider the evidence. I mean, this sounds all very reasonable, but yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, this is what TDS does to people's brains. Sorry, but I think that these people are still very invested and have always been so invested in identifying themselves as left and not right that it prevents them from being rational. And, that's probably what they've always said, what the left or what liberals or whatever have always said about terfs, and actually how they paint the right. But really, this is all projection, because I think that the truth is very easy to see and to speak, and you won't do it because you don't want to sound like the big bad terfs like us, who got so swayed by MAGA or whatever, that we can't think straight, when in fact we've been saying the same thing the whole frickin' time, from when I identified as a socialist until now, where I identify as a nothing. Like, you know, come on. No, like, you can't, they're minors. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the conversation.
And, you know, not only is this what TDS does to your brain, this is what sexism does to your brain. That there's no such thing as being born in the wrong body. And expand what is acceptable male and female behavior is the solution to this, not lock people into, well, I mean, you're behaving in a way that is so societally girly, you must actually be a girl, even though you have a male body. No one can change their sex, and no one is born in the wrong body. And there's never a reason to engage in this delusion. It's completely insane. It's, you know, this is not medical treatment. It's, in psychiatry, there's this term filet à deux, when two people get caught up in the same delusion and they're acting it out together like this. It's just mass insanity on the part of both the medical providers and the patients.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't with these higher than thou middle ground people who are also presenting themselves as, you know, the rational, gender critical ones. Matt Yglesias, Benjamin Ryan, you know, like, I'm sorry, but you're stupid. You're stupid. Like, I don't know if they're lying, you know, or being dishonest because they care more about virtue signaling than telling the truth. I think that they're just not very smart. That's what I think. So if that's the impression you want to offer to the world, then knock yourself out. You know, so Matt Yglesias says, in response to he tweets Helen's piece, and then he adds, I should say, I don't think we should ban youth transition with parental involvement. It's a basic question of freedom, among other things, but it's still important to say things that are true about the existing state of the evidence rather than things that are false or unclear. That's a stupid thing to say. It's a basic question of freedom. It's not a basic question of freedom. They're kids. Like, it's a basic question. You could argue, I mean, I would argue against the surgeons performing unethical and experimental surgeries on anyone, but you could argue in defense of the individual who wants to get the surgeries to say, you know, you're an adult, okay, you can get whatever cosmetic surgeries you want. I've said that before. It's not a basic question of freedom when you're talking about minors. No
one has a right to sterilize a child and remove their child's future sexual pleasure. Like, this is, people still refuse to acknowledge what's going on here. And these men who think so little of women and our humanity that they can't understand why we're upset about this. Like, well, why do these TERFs get so angry about it? Why can't they just be nice and use the pronouns when, you know, our sports are disappearing, women are being locked in jail cells with rapists, on and on and on. Our medical statistics are meaningless now. Our crime statistics are meaningless now. And just the insult of saying a castrated man on estrogen wearing so-called women's clothes and performing female stereotypical femininity is a woman. Like, that we should just be okay with this insult. They don't understand why it's insulting to us.
No, they don't understand why it's insulting to us, which either demonstrates that they don't understand women, that they do think that women are corny stereotypes of femininity, or that they're not really concerned about how women fit into this whole debate, which is amusing because this whole debate really is about women and women's spaces and women's rights. There's other issues at hand, but that is the what this debate stems from, and that's where it's all started. I mean, once again, I mean, he does this all the time, so it's nothing new. But this Benjamin Ryan, he writes, bravo to Matt Yglesias for forbidding misgendering, like on his Substack or whatever, which is cruel and only reflects poorly on the character of the person calling Sarah McBride he. And so he's referencing, and he offers this screenshot from Matt Yglesias's Substack. And there's a paragraph before the article that says, before we begin, these are like, what are you, like a 25-year-old feminist blogging in 2009? This is what you sound like. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that in accordance with our policy, that comments must be civil and constructive. Anyone who misgenders Congresswoman McBride or Chase Strangio will get an automatic 24-hour ban. Who cares? Everybody stop commenting and reading his shit. Like let people say what they want to say. Who cares? Like, why are you policing people's language specifically around calling a man he?
Right.
And you're claiming to be the rational, sane one? Get out of here, man.
I know. They just don't get it. And Benjamin Ryan just, like doubling down on it again and again. But did you see him soliciting J.K. Rowling for an interview and saying,
oh, yeah.
After he's blocked every other woman who's ever called him out on it, suddenly he's like, oh, here's a billionaire I could get famous if I have an interview with her. I could get more likes and
she would never.
More publicity. No, she's like, if you want to know what I think, read what I've already written about it, which I thought was brilliant.
Well, and also, like, I responded to him and said, what exactly would be the purpose of this? And he didn't respond. But, like, I mean, I know because it would get him clicks, but it's like, you're so condescending. Do you think you're going to change her mind?
Right.
Like, do you think you've thought about this more than J.K. Rowling has? Do you think that you're somehow on her level? Like, you're in this debate on nobody. Who cares? Who cares what you think about this?
Yeah.
I don't care what your opinion is about pronouns. Why would I care what Benjamin Ryan's opinions about pronouns are? When he's insisting on calling men she and then acting like he's somehow critical of transgenderism. Like, there's no middle ground here, and people pretend, and I'm not talking about on a personal level. Like, if somebody in their personal life wants to refer to somebody that they're engaging with as an individual, their friend or family member, whoever it is, as he or she, because that'll sort of, I don't know, make things easier, then whatever. But if you're writing as a journalist, no. If you're speaking publicly, no. Like, and especially not if you're insisting that other people follow these rules. Like, you on a personal level, do whatever you want, but then to chastise women who've been fighting this for 10, 15 years for saying he's a man, when the entire reason we've gotten to this point stems from the fact that people went along with this out of politeness. Right. Exactly. And you can't understand this.
And what qualifies him to be considered a moderate or a middle ground person on this issue? What is he opposed to in terms of the trans agenda? Is he like Brianna Wu, where it's like, oh, we've got to figure out something about this sports issue. We got to figure out what to do about that. But how, like, we have to be able to let men legally be women, but somehow have limits on that. I don't understand what his take is.
I think he's mostly talking about kids and gender medicine, so-called gender medicine, like gender clinics and bad research around things like puberty blockers, that kind of stuff. Like, I think he's sort of a science journalist primarily. So, everybody who doesn't want to seem like a meanie just only hyper focuses on the kids issue. And there's certainly, that's like a very important issue. But there's a reason why they focus on the kids issue, because they don't have to risk seeming mean by calling autogynophiles and perverts or whatever it is. And they don't have to deal with the men and women's prisons and women's spaces and bathrooms issue, because, who cares who goes into your bathroom? I don't care who's peeing next to you. Like, it's like a cool kids, like, blase. This isn't really I don't think that these people are really that impassioned about the issue, is what I think. I think that they, Katie Herzog and Jesse Singal on their podcast always have this sort of everything is silly and beneath us, and we don't actually take anything very seriously, which I find really unimpressive. Like, I like to joke about all sorts of things, and I think it's important not to be over serious. Like, I don't enjoy listening to people who seem really angry all the time, but everything isn't a joke at all by the same token. And it isn't silly
Yeah.
to talk about men going into women's bathrooms because it's connected to all sorts of other things. It's not just about, okay, so there's one guy in a dress who's peeing in the stall next to you. Like, oh my God, calm down. Like, that's not how this has gone down. And that's not how we've ever framed the issue. You know, we've been forced to talk about bathrooms because the question is about who is a woman, and can a man just identify as a woman and get into any space that he wants to.
Yeah, it's amazing how the tide is turning, but not really. The liberals are doubling down on their support for this madness, and the Trump administration has made these enormous shifts. You know, what the University of Pennsylvania decision yesterday was mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing that happened. But like you said, I'm simultaneously, my mind is blown and I'm underwhelmed at this time because it just seems like nothing has really changed. But something did change. They stripped Lia Thomas of all of his medals. They reverted to the previous record holders because he had set at least 4 new records in various swimming events because he's a 6'4" bloke with an enormous wingspan who, like, you know, he's a male swimmer, and there's no way women were ever going to beat the records that he set in the supposedly female category. They reset all of that. They apologized to the female athletes. They gave them medals. Yeah, this is huge. This is huge.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, for those who missed it. Yeah, UPenn has agreed to apologize to the female Division I swimmers who were forced to compete against Lia Thomas. It has also committed to stripping Thomas of the titles and records he obtained while competing as a female, and will return them to the female athletes.
Did they apologize for making women undress in front of him and making women be exposed to his genitalia in the women's locker room? Like, I don't know if they went.
I think they will. I mean, I don't think it's been done yet, but it says, so UPenn will send a personalized letter of apology to each impacted female swimmer. This action followed an investigation by the department's Office for Civil Rights that found UPenn violated Title IX by allowing Lia Thomas to compete in female athletic programs and occupy a female-only locker room. So that seems like an issue that they're paying attention to in this as well.
Do you think it's going to die down with the shutting down of the pediatric clinics, and the feds are saying they're not going to give educational funding to California for the next school year because they're in violation of Title 10 or Title 9?
Okay, sorry. And I just want to add, UPenn will issue a public statement to the university community stating that it will comply with Title IX, specifying that UPenn will not allow males to compete in female athletic programs or occupy Penn Athletics female intimate facilities. I mean, I do think that, like, the tide's turned on this issue and that we're not going to go back. Obviously, there's still fights to be had in various categories and various states. Obviously, in Canada, they haven't caught on yet, and they're still going forward with the transitioning of kids, and that won't change until they're forced to, and they may well be forced to by Trump, because he seems to be forcing them to give up all sorts of nonsense as they realize that they have zero power and that he has all the power.
But does he have power on this issue?
I don't know. He might have something up his sleeve. He's a smart guy.
The sports thing,
they're making a deal.
Hearing that, with Penn saying they won't allow males to compete on the female teams, that is going to be really difficult because the way the laws have been changed, these guys have female birth certificates, female driver's licenses. They are legally recognized by the government as females. So it's not just about sports, which is what we've been saying forever. It's that giving males the right to legally be recognized as female is the problem. And how do we undo the sports thing without undoing the fact that these guys have passports that say that they're women?
Well, I mean, I think that they'll undo those laws I think they already have undone those laws. But yeah, I wonder if they'll go back and retrospectively force people to change their IDs. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if once they had to go and renew maybe their passports or their, I don't know. We'll see. But Trump seems pretty like stickler on this issue. So I wouldn't be surprised if something were done about that as well. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's all underwhelming and more maddening than anything, because it's like, I think what we've learned is that people are never going to learn. Like, people are never going to be brave when their choice is to be comfortable and socially accepted and applauded by their friends on social media. And that people don't think before jumping on board. Most people are lemmings. Most people, sorry to be cynical, but most people are going to jump off the cliff with everybody else because that's the more comfortable thing to do, because they want to fit in. Or, a lot of people just aren't thinkers either. Like, one of the weird things that I discovered sort of recently, and I keep finding really, really disturbing, it explains a lot, but I find it really confusing and disturbing, is that, sorry to change the subject, but maybe this is relevant somehow, is that there's a whole bunch of people in the world who don't have like inner monologues. Like, like they're not having conversations inside their brains. Like, they're not really thinking as they move about the world. They're just moving about the world, and then their brain isn't thinking anything. And they're not like and I'm sure you do. Like, I'm constantly having fake conversations with people inside my brain, or, I'm writing things inside my brain. And my brain is never not thinking about stuff and questioning things. And there's a whole bunch of people whose brains aren't doing that. Is that not weird? How does that happen?
And it's a third. Is that what they say?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It's hard for me to understand that. I've heard that before, the people who just don't have an internal dialogue. They
don't know what you're talking about when you say like, you're not, do you have conversations, like fake conversations with other people inside your head, and they look at you like really confused?
Right.
I had an ex-boyfriend that I all of a sudden realized that I was like, I remember looking at him while he was driving, and I was like, I think you're literally thinking about nothing right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Well, there are people who have like the reins of their brain to the point where they decide when to think, but they can decide to engage in an internal monologue. But apparently there are people who just can't do that. Like, my brain is just, constantly creating thoughts that are verbal. Like, it's all like they're in the term of they're like an internal monologue all the time. And then, I don't know, but that gets into brain science and how little we actually know about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I just wrote an article today about the end of dating apps. I don't know that dating apps are going to end, but I guess Bumble just fired or laid off 30% of their staff, and they've lost like, I don't know, a whole bunch of money. Like,
Really?
Supposedly young people are not using dating apps in the way that people were, 5 years ago, a few years ago. Yeah, hold on here. Let me just find what I've written. And I'm going to post it in the live chat. By the way, if you're in the live chat and you would like to ask a question, please use the super chat, or if you want to leave a comment that you want us to address on the stream. Okay, so Bumble has laid off is laying off 30% of its workforce and lost 90% of its value since going public in 2021. And according to media reports, this is due to the fact that young people are not really into online dating. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if that is because also Gen Z is notoriously not dating or having sex or drinking.
Right. Are they doing anything?
So maybe they're just not dating, and that's what's happened. Maybe none of them have a libido, and it's all been killed by like over vaccination and like
and endocrine disruption.
And all of the chemicals that they're smothering their bodies in via sunscreen. I've turned into a real a real conspiracy theorist now, but
I think the sunscreen absolutely is destroying young people's endocrine systems.
Sunscreen is so bad for you. I hate that. I mean, I used to wear sunscreen on my face every single day because I thought, and I've never been like a person who goes and sunbathes because I'm pale and I know, and there's kind of no, like I try to go out in the sun and get some sun and I like having a tan, but I mean, I'll go out for 20 or 30 minutes and then I'll go back inside or I'll go in the shade or something. Like, I'm not the kind of person who's going to go lie out there for hours and cook myself, partly because I don't want wrinkles. And because, for me, it takes a lot of work to get a tan. And then if I don't keep it up in a week, it's gone. So I'm like, well, that was a big waste of time. And now I'm more wrinkly than I was before. But, like I used to, you're just told that's just like, put your sunscreen on, put your sunscreen on, put your sunscreen on, wear sunscreen on your face every day. Because otherwise you'll get, I mean, a better thing to do is just to like cover your body or stay in the shade or wear a hat or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But sunscreen is way worse for you than the sun.
Totally.
Like,
I get so angry when I go swimming and I have to swim in a sludge of sunscreen. Like the pool I go to it's a private pool, I go to this club, but everybody there is just drenching themselves and their kids in sunscreen. And you see the film of it on top of the water by the afternoon. So I'm getting sunscreen on me, even though I don't want it. And then the aerosolized sunscreens where they're spraying down their kids.
And where does all that water go?
Yeah.
Like all the chemicals that are just like out there floating. Like it's like, and just, all the processed foods and all the like pharmaceuticals that these kids are on, like all the ADHD pills and the antidepressants and the anti-anxiety pill. I'm just like, these poor, like what maybe they don't even want to have sex. Like,
I know. I don't think they do. I mean, I really don't see a lot of libido in most of the young people I interact with. It's really distressing to me how they just aren't even interested in sex. And most of them have like visible endocrine derangement going on, that they're just, they're kind of doughy. They have strange fat distribution. They're having menstrual problems, or the boys are not, like, they're just like, you can't even, you can't feel that libidinous spark that you like. If you hung out with teenagers and young adults 30 years ago, it was just pheromones bouncing everywhere, and you could feel like these young people all wanting to have sex, kind of trying to sublimate that. It's gone. Like the arrows. I
mean, I think they do where I am. I feel like I'm surrounded by a bunch of very
libidinous people.
Trying to fuck each other all the time.
Yeah, but it probably is different down there. And are people in better shape down there in general? Like,
I don't know. And we're in St. Lita, people are in really good shape, but that's because we're all competing with one another. And, there's a lot of hot people, so you kind of have to keep up, and you're not in very many clothes a lot. But I don't know. I don't know that if in general people in Mexico are in better shape. Like, unfortunately, there's still a lot of like junk food around. Like, aside from obviously Mexican food itself is really great and healthy, but like, there's also the like pop and chips and junk food and crap like that. So I guess
there's a lot of diabetes in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when we were talking to Heather Hying, and she made a comment that stuck with me so hard, where she said, young people are not as strikingly beautiful as they used to be. And that's what I see everywhere I go. Like, when I see gorgeous young people, like strapping young men, or just like glowing, or really beautiful young women, it's an anomaly now. Like, I rarely see it. I see a lot of very unhealthy young people, but also kind of making themselves ugly with like,
well, they all wear a ton of makeup, and then they're like, online you can't tell because everybody's way over filtered. And then it seems like, I mean, the kinds of, when we were younger, I didn't wear very much makeup when I was in high school. Like, you would wear lipstick, right? Like, but you weren't like contouring. Like, like when you're 20 years old, getting all this like filler and getting Botox and all this stuff that makes you look older. I don't know. I'm trying to think about I guess, I mean, I probably don't know very many people who are in Gen Z. Like I have a lot of friends who are millennials.
Yeah. I'm talking like when I go to the farmer's market, or if I just go to the grocery store, places where I go where there's like a cross section of ages. It's really shocking to me how youth has changed and just how unhealthy. Like there's just so much obesity and so much endocrine derangement and so much anxiety and weird social skills. Like the young people working at the coffee shops can't make eye contact. They don't know how to be polite. Like, the youth are a large percentage of the youth are really a wreck right now. So I wonder, are they even interested in having sex? Like,
I don't know. I wonder also. But I mean, I guess like part of what I was annoyed about is, so I'm reading this about dating apps and I was like, yeah, but it was so stupid for people to get on dating apps in the first place. Like, how dumb are you that you think this is a good idea? And why are you enjoying this? Or are you just telling yourself you're enjoying it? Because I remember, I've talked about this 1,000 times, but whatever, like, the amount of times that like these aren't people that I'm friends with anymore, but like my old female friends back in Vancouver would just try so hard to convince me to go on a dating app. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, I was in a lot of relationships, so it wasn't like I was desperate to find somebody anyway. And I just knew that I would at some point. Like I always meet somebody somehow. I don't know how it happens. It just is the magic of the universe. But like what, like, why? Like I would just rather be single than be on a dating app. Like this is so unenjoyable to me. This is a waste of my life. This is a waste of my brain space. This makes me feel the same way that I feel after using Facebook, which is like yucky and gross. And like I think it's embarrassing and desperate. And I think going on a dating app is embarrassing and desperate. Why would you want to go somewhere and advertise yourself to people that don't know you, hoping that somebody will pick you based on a photo of your face? Like they don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your vibe, your personality, your body, like if you look sexy or not. Like I'm not, that's a real thing. Obviously you're attracted to people because of their body and their body type. And like, and just like how they carry themselves in the world, and their even things like their voice, and that everybody just did it, and everybody pretended like, they're like, no, it's fun. And like, no, it's not fun. Why are you telling yourself that this is fun? Going out and having fun with other people is fun. Swiping through faces on an app isn't fun. Messaging with strangers that you know nothing about isn't fun.
I'm glad to hear it's dying down. But
it'll just be something else. It's just going to be AI something. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, this is done. And then what have you learned from this? Like, what's going to change next time you're presented with an AI love bot? And this is the new thing. This is the new fun thing. Okay. Like, this is what I mean. I'm just like, I'm so cynical now that I'm just like, well, you guys don't learn anything from anything.
Do you think OnlyFans is dying down, or is that still a growth? No. Okay.
No, I think that OnlyFans is doing very well.
That's gross. But I think that like men find that more controlled. Women who are just, also destroyed by pornography are like, well, I may as well just make money if I'm just going to be performing sexuality. And men are like, let's just pay for it so I don't have to show up as a real person and actually be in a real relationship that, like it's just the monetary transaction of it. I think on both the creators and the consumers, it's just the wrecking of society that's created that.
Yeah. And I think that is actually like what you just said about the women's reasoning for going on OnlyFans. I think that's connected to the fact that Gen Z is not interested in sex because, people who are pro pornography and men who lie to themselves are very naive and who use pornography and don't want to feel guilty about it or question that, they'll pay for sex. They like to pretend that these girls are doing it, whether it's porn or prostitution or OnlyFans stuff or, thoughting themselves on Instagram are doing it because they're just really sexy, really sexual women who just really like sex. But the truth is that none of that has to do with any kind of female sexuality. Like those are all fake contrived performances to get men to pay them or validate them in some way. It's all just a manipulation. And, you know, it's, you know, those girls are not on OnlyFans getting turned on and enjoying themselves despite what it looks like. You know, it's not posing in pornographic ways is not comfortable. It doesn't feel sexy. Like try taking a nice like photo of your body that you're going to send to somebody. You have to contort yourself in all sorts of weird ways so that it looks flattering. It doesn't feel good or sexual or natural in any way. So for them, if that's sort of already how they're existing online and they don't know anything about their own sexualities and they're not having orgasms, so they don't even know what it feels like or what it means to be a sexual person, or they don't know what their sexuality is. Like, they really don't know what it feels like to feel sexy, actually, not just to look sexy for strangers on the internet. Then of course they would be like, well, why don't I just get paid for this on the internet, on OnlyFans? Like, there's nothing intimate about this anyway. This doesn't it probably doesn't even feel very private for you if it doesn't even have anything to do with you or sex or sexuality.
Right. It's like, you know, if I have to interact with porn sick men who have these pornified expectations, I may as well get paid for it.
Yeah. I mean, they're all strangers on the internet. So what difference does it make? Why not take their money? You know, that's empowering. That's, I mean, young women have been told that since, you know, the early aughts, right? This has been a primary message of third wave feminism, that like what empowerment means is I'm getting paid, so it's empowerment. As if like, you know, plug that argument into any situations. Like, slave owners are making lots of money because they have slaves. Are they empowered? Is that empowering? Like, what are you talking about? Just because you get paid for something, that doesn't automatically make it empowering, unless I guess arguably it does, but then empowerment isn't an inherently positive thing or word. No,
it's been marketed so hard to them though, and it's all that they know. So that's growing. That's a growth industry.
And I think I was going to say, I think that's going to get worse, but I guess who knows with all the AI porn that's going to come up and whether or not that's going to replace the real life women. Although, you know, because AI porn, I'm sure will be cheaper than real female, like you have to pay to access the pornography that you're seeking on OnlyFans. I don't know where that's going to head. It might head in both directions. Like, it might head into way more prostitution and trafficking and pornography. I mean, pornography is not a shrinking industry. Trafficking, prostitution is certainly not a shrinking industry.
No, not at all.
And I think, I mean, what I wrote about this week was that I saw some chick who I've never heard of before, thank God, named Sophie Rain, who's 20 years old, and she's famous for making like a crazy amount of money in her first year on OnlyFans. And she is supposedly, I don't know if I buy this, but she's supposedly a virgin and Christian. I mean, I sort of think this is all about her porn persona, because I mean, this is exactly what men want when they're looking at pornography. First of all, she looks really underage. Like, she's a really, really young face, which she knows, and she's using that. So she has this like sexy, porny body and an underage face. So that's a big part of the reason why she's famous. And then, she sells herself as this virginal Christian. She says she made $43 million on the platform in her first year. So like between November 2023 and 2024. And she got into a beef with Bonnie Blue, who's one of those who's doing something similar to that. Lily Phillips? Yeah, so apparently, like, I don't know how this is freaking possible, but apparently she had allowed, she allowed over 1,000 men to penetrate her in a day.
No, it's like, how? I mean, it's so disgusting.
It's so disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a disgusting thing to do in a lifetime. Never mind in one day.
That's a good point.
That's too many men.
Yeah, she's really messed up.
God, I can't even think about it. But, you know, this Sophie person came out and said that Bonnie Blue was harming the image of the platform, i.e. OnlyFans. She says, it's no longer about women empowerment. It's shock value. And she's making a joke out of all of this. We built this space to take control of our bodies and make money on our terms. But that's what young women believe, because that's what they've been told.
Right.
You know, they've been told that because they're making, again, these are messages that came out of third wave feminism and that were obviously embraced and co-opted by the sex trade lobby.
Well, and maybe manufactured by the sex trade lobby with the overthrow of the old women's studies departments by the third wavers. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Chicken or the egg question. But, you know, it's that whole thing that, you know, I've been writing about forever and that we've been criticizing forever, which is that, you know, just because somebody consents technically doesn't make it good or okay. And just because you're getting paid doesn't make it good or okay. And just because you chose it, like technically, okay, I made a choice to do that, it doesn't make it empowering or good or anything. And, you know, this is, you know, like turning the platform into a joke. I mean, it's a platform for porn and prostitution.
Right.
So like, what do you think porn is? It's what Bonnie Blue's doing. Like the whole thing that porn does is it demands more and more extreme acts from women because they get used up and spat out and become old news so quickly. Like you're like really big and you're making a lot of money when you're fresh meat and you don't have to do very extreme things because people are like, oh, she's new, she's young, she's barely legal, she's a virgin. And then you start doing more and more and more and able to, in order to be able to maintain a career in pornography, you have to do more and more and more extreme acts to keep getting attention and to keep getting views and to keep getting paid. So that's what Bonnie Blue is doing. That's how porn works. That's always how porn has worked. There's no, you know.
This is the irony of it, of pretending that OnlyFans is a site for sweet, young Christian virgins to make some money.
Sorry, say that again. I was reading a question.
That it's a site for sweet, young Christian virgins to empower themselves and make some money. It's so so disingenuous.
Like, you're doing porn on a porn site. Come on.
This is a site for Christian virgins. Look at what you're doing to degrade the site. You know, this is really insane.
If you were really a Christian virgin, you wouldn't be on OnlyFans. This is my opinion. I'm like, surely you know what a moral is in that case if you're a Christian. Like, I don't believe this.
Right.
And to pretend that you don't think that you're doing anything wrong is BS. I mean,
and to accuse another woman who's just pushing it further, like she has a different act, she's got a different shtick of degrading the honor and integrity of OnlyFans is pretty funny. It's actually pretty comical.
Yeah. Somebody asked a question and I can't answer it. Hopefully you can. But Sabrina says, what do you women know about the development of AI relationships and what age range is using that? Also, do you know if Lily Phillips has had cosmetic surgery?
Oh, I don't know if Lily Phillips has had cosmetic surgery. I wouldn't be surprised if she's at least had fillers or Botox.
Well, I know. I think she had to go to the hospital after her last stunt. Like, I think her vagina was injured.
Oh God.
I think. Okay, she got a labiaplasty. I think a lot of women in porn have labiaplasties because they want to
look pornified
and young and pornified.
probably lasered off all their pubic hair so it will never grow in again.
Supposedly she's had liposuction. Supposedly she had a chin implant.
Oh, interesting. To look like the girl next door, all to look like the girl next door.
I mean, I'd love a chin implant, to be honest. I've always had a weak chin, but that's about it. Okay, so yeah, hold on.
What do we know about AI relationships? That's a good question. I'm sure there are anthropologists studying that. That's fascinating.
Okay, I think she needed, her and her friend Tiffany Goodtime needed reconstructive surgery after they did one of their stunts with a large number of men. I remembered reading that. Gross.
Disgusting.
I mean, I don't know how, I don't know how men can read all this and then still say that, that pornography is just a bunch of women having fun sex because they're hedonistic, and they just are thrilled and know they really are enjoying themselves. It's like, do you think that they're really enjoying themselves and having a good time when they have to get reconstructive surgeries in their anuses or vaginas because
it's been so damaged?
You think that felt good?
Yeah, exactly. That they're suffering structural damage of their anatomy because of these extreme acts. It's terrible. It's so disgusting.
I'm just trying to read more about these surgeries and what happened. I don't know very much about AI relationships, but I do know that there was that story recently, and I can't confirm if it was real or not. It was all over the media about that kid who killed himself because he was engaging in an AI relationship with a Khaleesi, and he thought that he was in love with her, and said something to her like, should I come be with you? And she said, yes, my king, or whatever she said. And he killed himself, and he's just a kid.
Oh my God.
And I think that kind of thing is going to get real common because children, minors, teenagers, whatever, notoriously, they can't tell the difference between what's real and fake in the same way that adults can. And then they're not being trained on, again, things like pornography, and, they're playing characters in gaming all the time. So they're getting themselves confused with avatars. Like, that seems to have gotten all confused in the whole trans thing as well. It seems like there's a very, very high percentage of people who are really into gaming in the tech world, men in particular, young men who are transing themselves because they're putting themselves into these sort of porny female avatars and imagining themselves into autogynephilia in some way.
Oh, completely. I mean, that's been going on for a long time. I had a friend who 10 years ago, her boyfriend lost his job and just started staying at home playing pornographic video games with a female avatar, and suddenly decided he was female because he was getting off on envisioning himself as a female. So yeah, people don't know what's real anymore and what's pornography, what's the internet. I think we are going to see a lot more people falling in love with AI.
Yeah.
I've been hearing stories of people leaving their marriages because they're in love with a chatbot. In medicine, we're seeing a lot of people talking to AIs and about their health and making really terrible decisions because the AIs have told them that this is what's going on with you and this is what you need to do. People, poisoning themselves with overdoses, and because for very good reasons, people don't trust the medical establishment to listen to them. And here's the AI like spending all this time and really listening to them. Like they're spending a lot of time with the AI with the perception that it's hearing them and it's paying attention to them. And then also there's a provider shortage and people can't get in with a medical provider and they can just go online and talk to an AI. Mm-hmm. So it's causing so many issues. It would make sense to me that more and more people will be falling in love with these things.
For sure. And I don't think there's an age limit in terms of who can use AI. Anybody can use AI. And obviously the younger generations are ever more adept at using tech than older generations are. This is sort of built into their coding at this point. Like, and using AI for therapy. I know a lot of people who are like, what should I do about this situation? How should I respond to this conflict? How should I respond to this text from this guy? How should I like respond to what should I say to my friend who's mad at me? Like those kinds of things, which is really strange. I mean,
right. But we're a texting culture and an instant message culture. People have these online relationships with people they've never met. They only know them through social media or through Reddit or something like that. And they fall in love with them through texting, right? And they think they're having a long distance relationship just through computer messaging. So it's not at all a leap to then get really attached to the AI. How do you know that your Facebook so-called friend is not a bot if you've never met that person?
You should, I mean, you shouldn't have friends that you don't know.
Yeah.
I remember being really confused at one point because this is a woman that both you and I know. I have met her in real life. I do know her. And, who was very, very into the Canadian radical feminist Facebook community. I don't like calling it a community. I don't think online things are communities. I don't think that counts as a community at all. Yeah. Bunch of people you don't know. You don't even know if they're real people.
Exactly.
And, she would always tell me, like, she would vouch for certain people. She'd be like, oh, you should accept so-and-so's friend request. This is like 10 years ago. I was like, or I would be like, do you know this person? Like, do you know, should I engage with them? Can I trust them? Like, like, I wouldn't just accept anybody's friend request from my page. I didn't want a whole bunch of randos on there.
Right.
And she would be like, oh yeah, I've known her for ages. Yeah, she's a really good friend. I've known her forever, over and over and over again. And at a certain point, I remember realizing, I was like, oh my God, you don't know any of these people. You've never met them before. You think that you're really close with people that you only engage with on Facebook, and you're a shut-in, and you don't actually engage. You don't actually have friends in real life that you see routinely, and you think all these people are your friends, and you refer to them as like, oh yeah, I know them so well. Like, she's really, really great. It's so weird.
Right.
Like, I would never say that about somebody that I only knew online, that they were like a good friend. I don't think I'd even call them a friend ever. I'd be like, oh, I don't know. Somebody that I know online.
When we have no idea who's real or who's already an AI or a bot on Facebook or on social media, right? It's all being rolled out as a big experiment. In mental health in the United States, there are already mental health AIs that you can chat with. Your insurance will cover AI therapy in some cases. They're rolling out doing some experiments where you don't know if you're talking to a human or an AI to see if you get the same therapeutic benefit. They're rolling out AI primary care, it's all, medicine's all algorithm, no artistry already. We see that.
I know those doctors are really only just Googling symptoms and prescribing drugs on that basis anyway. So I suppose
it's all algorithmic. Yeah, if this, you do this. If this, you do this. We have these two drugs for that.
Yeah. I don't mean literally Googling, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, sometimes.
The symptoms.
The database.
Like, here's your drug.
The database. Yeah. It's really fascinating, how this is all being rolled out. It's a giant experiment. I think absolutely people are already falling in love with it. And who knows, maybe I have Facebook friends, so-called friends who are AIs already. How would I know?
That's technically you wouldn't. Okay, again, if you have questions or comments, I have not been able to pay close attention to the live chat at all, so please use the super chat so that I see them. The trans brain, thing, so Christina Buttons published an article recently about like debunking all the garbage so-called studies that prove that there's such a thing as a transgender brain. Well, it was authored by Colin Wright, Samuel Stagg, Christina Buttons, and it's, I mean, this is an argument that's essentially been used from the get-go in defense of the concept of transgenderism. Like, we've heard this whole time this description of a male trapped in a female body, and people will constantly say, well, what about people who, it's like they have a man's brain but they're in a woman's body, or he has a woman's brain. How would you feel if you had the wrong brain?
How would you feel if you had the wrong brain?
That's not possible. You can't have the wrong brain. God didn't accidentally put a man brain inside my head. That's not how this works. I just have my brain. It's mine. It can't be wrong. That's just not possible. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you talking about? But I think a lot of people have used that argument in defense, of transitioning and in terms of saying like, oh, well, I just want my kid's body to match their brain, or I want my body to match my brain, as if that's a coherent concept either.
Yeah, and it's such bullshit for so many reasons. There are these potentially subtle brain differences between the sexes, but again, if you have 100 brain MRIs of a random sample of the population and you present those to a radiologist can't tell you which are male and which are female. They all just look like brains. It's
really?
Yes.
Like, you can't, like, if you just look at a brain, you'd have to do more than look at a brain, obviously. But if you like had a brain and you did tests on the brain and you compared it, you wouldn't see any single difference between a male brain and a female. Like, a male brain isn't bigger than a female brain. I don't know anything about brains.
You could be looking, I mean, statistically, yes, but not 100% of the time. Like, that could be from a smaller male or a bigger female. There is no way a radiologist can tell which particular brain scan belongs to a male or a female. And then people get into functional MRIs where they're looking at what parts of the brain light up when you stimulate different centers or talk to different people. And even that is nowhere near like predictive. Like, there is nothing 100% where all females have this kind of brain, all males have this kind of brain. Functional MRI is in many ways kind of junky science anyway. It just doesn't tell us a lot about anything. To me, this whole male and female brain thing reminds me very much of the people who truly believe, like, I have a chemical imbalance in my brain. I don't have enough serotonin. That's why I'm depressed. It's bullshit. We don't have that level of sophistication in neuroscience. It's all just theoretical. A lot of it is sexist, like they're always going to be outliers. Even if certain things we can say, like, oh, the corpus callosum functions this way in most men and this way in most women, you're always going to be able to find many, many, many men and women who don't fit into that stereotype of how the brain functions. There is no difference unless you do genetic testing on the material of the brain, which means you've done a biopsy, so you've gravely injured the person with the brain. You can't tell who's male or female. The only way would be a chromosomal analysis. It's just bullshit. And then on top of it, it's, like you said, if it's in your body, that's the sex of the brain it is. It's just, it's your brain. So whatever your sex is the sex of your brain.
Right. Yeah. It is a male brain or a female brain, depending on whether it's in a male body or a female body. You're a female, so you have a female brain because you're female.
Right. Exactly.
Like, okay, so what happened this week is that this happened a few days ago, this guy named Jessica Riedel, who really recently, he came out as a woman in like February, saying he's married with kids. He's got he's not a gynophile narcissist, and his poor family, I hope they all leave him. But
Oh,
I'm
God, are
sure
they
he's
still
a
with
very
him?
abusive, litigious guy who probably has money and would destroy their lives because that's what narcissists do.
Well, certainly has many powerful male friends, as we've seen what's happening on X.
Yeah, bros defending bros. So he posts, I hate having to address transgender issues. Bullshit. I'm sure that you love this because you're attention seeking. That's probably why you transed yourself. But the bad faith ignorance is astounding. And then he puts a spool of thread, which I hate. My feed has been filled with conservatives attacking. This is very long. I just have to warn you. I'm sorry. With conservatives attacking transgenderism as a mental illness with no legit biological basis. I mean, I think that he's already engaging in bad faith because that's not, yes, some of you are mentally ill and some of you are just liars and some of you are just creeps. Some of you are just confused. But sure, some of you are, and I don't think very many people actually say, maybe people who are new to this debate would say transgenderism is a mental illness. It is for some people, but it's also not. Like, that's not a good transgenderism is just nonsense. It's just
But
BS.
for these medicine and science worshipers, according to their own rubrics, it's in the DSM-5, which is the
but that's not what the conservatives would say. Like, I don't think they'd be like, I think that the transes are responsible for presenting it as mental illness because they're saying that it's gender dysphoria. So it sounds like, okay, well, you're saying that you have a mental illness then.
Right? Exactly. Totally.
So, okay. So then he goes on to say, which is medically demonstrably false. Yes, transgender women are obviously not biologically identical to cis women. However, most also are not biologically identical to cis men either. Countless broadly accepted, that's a lie, medical studies have found that most transgender individuals have brain anatomy and functioning and often hormonal, chromosomal, and did I say that right? Whatever. And genetic traits that more closely match their experienced gender. My Substack post and my pinned tweet links to dozens of these medical studies. The conservatives yelling that it's impossible because male and female brains are fully identical in design and function are not only clearly biologically wrong, but also hypocritical. The long-standing conservative belief in gender essentialism centers around such brain differences as the basis for male masculine versus female feminine personalities, as they remind us every time a liberal mom tries to raise her baby boy with Barbie dolls to reject masculinity. If conservatives suddenly believe that the brain is genderless, then they are endorsing the more radical leftist idea that male masculinity and female femininity are entirely social constructs. And then he goes on to say, typical male and female brains contain subtle but real differences. And because our genes contain a full blueprint for both male and female development, it is possible for some people with XX or XY genes to experience chemical changes in the womb that alter some of the gender development signals, particularly to the brain. That still doesn't give you a male brain or a female brain if you're arguing that something weird happened in the womb that confused you into thinking that you were like a man instead of a woman, or that somehow made you more masculine or more feminine.
It means you have an anomalous male brain. It doesn't mean you have a female brain, because your brain has to be male because you are male. This is like the new intersex. So remember when they all pretended they were intersex, and that was their obfuscating argument that they throw out about, like, what about intersex? What about clownfish? What about seahorses? Now it's back to brain sex. They always have some infuriating argument to cloud the issue away from, you can't change your sex. And no matter what you do, you can't switch from male to female.
Right. And so he goes on to say, this pertains to what you just said. This all relates to the assertion that transgender people live under the delusion that they can change their sex. No, we don't. The point is that most transgender people were already born with biological differences relative to cisgender people. That's bullshit. They aren't trying to change their sex. because biologically they never completely developed as the other sex to begin with. This man just sounds like a crazy person now. I can't believe he works for the Manhattan Institute. And then somebody else just hired him on too, who is David French just hired him on.
It's disgusting.
Like, this
is a man who fathered multiple children with sperm that came out of his functioning penis. He is male. Like, he is male, period. There's nothing anomalous about his physiology or his chromosomes.
Well, and these arguments are also stupid and short-sighted because they really screw themselves, because it's like, okay, well then if you want to identify as a woman, then you should have to do a brain test to prove that you have a different woman-y brain. And then you can identify as transgender, and anyone who doesn't, I guess, isn't really transgender. So that leaves 3 of you with weird brain issues. Right. I don't know what the issue would be, but maybe there's some anomaly and they're like,
yeah, what is it? It's oh my God, I'm so over these men and their apologists. I can't stand it. And it used to be mostly women jumping in to defend these guys, and now it's all these men defending this creep, including, was it David French who said back in 2018 that he wouldn't repeat the lie that Bradley Manning was female and he wasn't going to use female pronouns for Bradley Manning, but now he's using female pronouns for this creep?
I don't know. Was it?
I think so. I thought it was David French.
So I don't know if he hired her on. I think he had her on his podcast or something. Sorry about that. What he said was, I think he can, no, you go ahead because I'm searching for
you
something.
Just call this Riedel guy her? Oh,
sorry. I'm trying to read. I'm like Googling right now.
It's all like her.
I'm reading what I'm reading. Like I'm reading. I'm sorry. I misgendered him. I think they hired this Jessica person at the Dispatch.
Yeah.
And then David French congratulated them. Yeah. So they hired this Jessica Rydell or whatever as a contributing writer at the Dispatch, and he's been a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute for a long time, which is really just weird. This guy's name used to be Brian, by the way, just for the record. It's weird until February, I guess, because the Manhattan Institute is doing all this work challenging trans ideology and trans legislation. So why is this guy, he's just going to stay there and be mad and, go, why are you working for this institute, particularly if you disagree with all the work that they're doing on transgenderism? I don't know. A lot of people don't like him online too. When I was trying to read about, where did Mary Lou go? We lost her. Okay, well, hopefully she'll come back. But needless to say, I'm going to read the rest of this tweet here. Blah, blah, blah. As a trans person, I did not wake up and decide to change my sex. I knew from age 4 that something was off with my gender. He's mixing up sex and gender, and later participated in several gender medical studies that confirmed a more female brain chemistry, architecture, functioning, hormone levels, and other biological characteristics. I'd love to see those studies. I don't really buy it. Most people who transition are merely aligning the rest of their body with other observable biological gender aspects, mostly. Mary Lou is saying her StreamYard link just went dead. So let me sorry, you guys. I'm just going to try to send her the link again. And we'll try to get her back. I don't know. I mean, this is sort of what all the autogynephiles say. They say that they knew from a very young age that they were trans. And then... Oh, she said, Mary Lou says the power went out and the internet went down. Okay, well, we'll wrap up soon anyway. and then they start talking about this, like Caitlyn Jenner did this, as I recall. Like, I knew from a young age that I was trans or actually a woman or whatever, because I really wanted to wear my mother's clothing, or, like he was the one that, I think he was trying on his daughter's clothes or underwear or something creepy like that. And this is their proof that they knew that they were trans or a woman from a young age, because they wanted to dance around in ladies' clothing. Needless to say, I think that this guy is full of shit, and I'm surprised that anyone at this point in time is still trying to defend the idea of a so-called trans brain, or the idea of the other sex brain being trapped inside their body. And he finishes by saying, if you're too invested in hating trans people to accept that gender science, as if there's such a thing as gender science, please stop. There's no such thing as frickin' gender science, is more complicated than the simplified model you learned in 10th grade biology. Again, like, we either talk about biology, talk about sex, talk about male or female, or talk about gender. There's no gender science. Gender is just about these feminine and masculine stereotypes. If you want to talk about biology, then you're going to have to accept the fact that men can't be women. Well, as conservatives love to remind everyone else, facts don't care about your feelings. Hilarious. Okay. Well, Mary Lou says that her power is out. And we've been here for an hour and a half, which is half an hour longer than we usually are. So I think we'll sign out in any case, unless anybody has any comments and questions. But thank you for tuning in. This has been Where Are All the Women? I'm Meghan Murphy. Mary Lou Singleton is gone. And I'm surprised my power didn't go out. We had a storm yesterday. We were supposed to have a hurricane come through yesterday, and it started storming today too. So we're lucky even to be here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We're here every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Please read my article about the OnlyFans debacle. I put it down below in my show notes. Also, it's on my Substack, which is www.meghanmurphy.ca. And I'm not just saying www because I'm old and don't understand how websites and the internet works. It's because for some reason, the way that link redirects to my Substack, if you just put in meghanmurphy.ca, it doesn't work. You have to put in the W's in some browsers in any case. And become a paid subscriber, because that is how you access all of my articles over there, and you get early access and exclusive access to video interviews, and it also helps support my work. It's actually the primary way that you can support my work in writing, but I'll produce at least one article a week for paid subscribers, and an interview a week as well. So I think it's worth your while, and I really appreciate it. I am on Twitter at Meghan E. Murphy, and Mary Lou Singleton X is on X at ML_Singleton, and she is also on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton. And you can also find my Gay and Retarded t-shirt on my website. It's actually on Fourth Wall, but I've linked to it on my website if you click on the shop. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a really great night. Sorry about Mary Lou. Bye, Mary Lou. Have a great night as well. Okay, take care. Bye.